gonna do my talk in English because I'm more comfortable speaking in English. بس تقدرون تسألوني أسئلة بالعربي وأحاول أجاوب. So, continuing the spirit of Nuqat. I'd first like to thank you all for being here, and thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you to Hassan Hmaili and the whole team at Nuqat for creating an event with some really fantastic energy. So today I'm going to be talking about this idea of curating as a collaborative process, and the idea that curating is a process of creating. I am interested here in talking about two roles that I have. One as managing editor of an online Middle East arts publication, and the other as a artist, as a member of the collective called GCC. So in the first part of my talk, I want to explore how one arrives at an idea through a more messy, organic process. And then the second half, I want to show how a messy, organic process, again, produces a complete work.
Can we do that?
So just some background on Artezine. It's a quarterly online publication, usually structured around a theme that's defined by a guest editor. They, in turn, invite contributors that include artists, theorists, practitioners in the field, even, in some cases, scientists reflecting on thoughts and positions within the art world. So since themes and contributions can vary widely, I'm also going to talk about the kind of nitty-gritty of how do you pull together all of these different unwieldy things into something neat and finished. I'm going to work with a case study of another Beirut Lebanese art collective called the Dictaphone Group. The reason that we're talking about them is that the subject matter of their particular contribution really resonates with Kuwait. And so they themselves create live art performances based on our kind of research-based practice. So taking oral history, taking stories from the community around them. The edition that they contributed is called The Sea is This Way, and it tackles the question of public space from the perspective of access to the sea. So they were looking at the way in which the coastline of Beirut is becoming more privatized, the way that the laws and legal structure was becoming blurry in favor of private companies, restaurants, hotels. If you want to follow along at home, you can log on to, this is the link to the publication, so you can kind of scan it and have a look as I talk about how I arrived at this work. Did everybody manage to get in? Yeah? Okay, great. So how did I make this happen? In a way, it happened to me. As a curator, I need to understand my own process, the way that I work, my own capacities and limitations. So even though I tend to be a fairly controlling person who likes to have things predefined and set, the creative process is not always agreeable to that preset mindset. So being at the Delphina Foundation in January in 2012 was a great space for me to just take a step back and really research, explore in a kind of intuitive way without any preconceived ideas of what I wanted to do or what I intended. I was there in residence with 3 other curators. We would go to museum shows, we would go and do artist studio visits in a very kind of open-ended way. And so this artist residency was a really important space for me to land here, which is Arts Admin, a organization based in London that's devoted to providing artists with studio spaces, with educational resources, workshops, and practical tools for them to advance their career. That's where I met one of the members of Dictaphone group Tanya Khouri. As we did a studio visit, she showed me examples of their work, and this particular project, هذا البحر لي, became the source of and the inspiration for the online publication for Arte East. So the goal of هذا البحر لي, which is a live performance that became documented, was to re-examine public space and to reimagine the city of Beirut. It was performed twice daily with 5 audience members over a period of 10 days. And I'm going to show just an excerpt of the documentation that they did.
مريسة مينا عظيمة أيام جدودنا وأيام الأتراك. كان من زمان جدودنا ينزلوا يسرحوا بالشراويل والطرابيش. وكان خيرات وكان ياكلوا ويشربوا هون مع عيالهم.
رح نكتشف القوانين والتخطيطات اللي بتقسم الشط قسمين، 9 و10. وال10 فيها كذا قسم، كل وحدة بتتبع لقوانين معينة.
إن المجال البحري حتى الحد الأقصى لارتفاع منسوب المياه هو عام غير قابل للتصرف. من
قبل قيام دولة لبنان هي ملك خاص لعيال بيروتية، بس رغم هذا الشيء استعمالها عام، لأنه بتتبع لتخطيطات بتمنع عليها العمار. كل منتجع ولا قهوة ولا مطعم على شط بيروت هو وضع خاص بيتراوح من مخالف شوي لمخالف كتير لمخالف بوقاحة. بيروت
You can actually watch the whole video, and it's really fantastic documentation, and in its own way shows a kind of extended life for the work. One of the really fantastic after effects, let's say, of working with the Dictaphone group is that we really made it a priority to translate the text into Arabic. In the past, as part of the Artezine, we've done literature and translation. So we had a publication that I co-edited with Khalid Hadid, who is a Kuwaiti scholar who's based here, of literature of young writers from Gaza. And so I am very proud of the fact that targeting audiences in New York and internationally with Arabic language translation or existing translated works from Arabic into English. Again, you can see the publication in translation at this website. Okay, so now it's time for the nitty-gritty. There we go. So whatever kind of inspiration or idea or artistic work that you're preparing, it needs a really well-defined structure. It really needs a kind of fixed set of guidelines. So because the project that we had is so interdisciplinary, what we needed to do was define the content and the format. So really letting the guest editors know and empowering them that they could choose virtually any subject matter that they were deeply invested in, but that there were certain things that had worked really well in the past. So kind of sharing those precedents was really important. And then process and timeline. So again, setting pre-agreed upon schedule this is after the first year of doing it, it was much more informal. So we would kind of come to these agreements with guest editors, and I would be scrambling at the last minute, uploading content, but having a hard deadline that is sort of out of your hands is also good. So in our case, we used an online newsletter called eFlux. So it was it's this newsletter that has, you know, a subscription list of tens of thousands of art world people. It's got a massive audience, and so it's fairly important for people who were guest editing to get their contributors to adhere to that deadline. So finding a way to get somebody else to be the bad guy is always a positive thing. And then it's really easy to forget this, but letting people know that you're going to pay them, how much, and the kind of schedule of payment, making it as easy as possible for them to get paid. These, especially creatives, are often asked to do quite a lot of work for very little money. That often takes a lot of time. As a matter of respect and courtesy, I think it's important to really flag this. They will forever want to collaborate with you if you do this final step.
Hey.
So that's just a recap.
Yeah, I know.
I think we're bleeding from the other mic.
The passage has to be there.
Can we just mute that one? So the next role that I'm going to talk about, or the next hat that I wear, is as an artist in the GCC collective. So we have our bio up here, so you can glance at it. You can also go to gccdomain.com. It's our website. There's not a whole lot on it now, but stay tuned. We came together as a group of friends who had in the past collaborated with each other a great deal. And we formalized ourselves into this collective because we felt that we could create some really powerful work that kind of transcended our individual practices. And here we are. So, so far, I would say if I had to define what our work comprises, one side of it deals with the aesthetics of bureaucracy. So we call ourselves the GCC, but it doesn't stand for anything specific. We are obviously drawing inspiration from the Gulf Cooperation Council and using their particular visual and rhetorical language to kind of highlight things that we're fascinated with in this particular region. So here we developed a series of portraits of ourselves in the garb, in the dress of shuyukh. These portraits are everywhere, from offices to the airport to private companies. And so we were interested in this portrait as a symbol of power and authority, and inserted ourselves into that narrative. So by kind of bigging ourselves up in a way, playing with gender, we're sort of challenging the different, the different boundaries of what is, or what might be permissible, or what might be considered art. So we actually hired a Thai oil painter who paints these portraits for shuyukh here in Kuwait. And for us also, that process of getting as close to the real thing, as close to the subject as possible, is important. I'm gonna talk about another work, and in this other work, I'm going to discuss a little bit about the kind of productive way in which conflict or friction or kind of creative differences can actually still result in something quite fantastic. So for our 1-year anniversary, we were formed in 2012, 2013? 13, yeah, 2013. So for our 1-year anniversary, we were invited to do a solo show at MoMA PS1, which is affiliated with the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And we called our exhibition GCC Achievements in Retrospective. So again, playing along with this idea within our culture of placing achievement at the, I guess at the forefront, but also looking at our own progression from the formation 1 year ago to a kind of massive body of work. So these are just a couple of installation shots, and we wanted something that would really pull the show together. And you see there's these trophies, there's a kind of very dry, bureaucratic, office-like condition. And again, here's the entrance to the exhibition. And at the far end, you see a large HD video that was essentially the promo video that we put together for our own collective for the show. And I'm going to show the video and then also talk a little bit about the specific process of making it. So let's see. Yes.
Our achievements and successes accomplished so far are the source of our confidence in and what will come. Achievements
Sorry, can people hear that okay? Yeah? Okay, great. Okay, so actually while it's loaded, I just wanted to be sure because the talking part is important. Everyone is familiar with these promo videos. Government offices, private companies kind of create them in order to create a sense of what is to come, a sense of what is not yet made, what is not yet developed. And so we were playing in that with this idea of the retrospective.
Accomplished so far are the source of our confidence in and what will come. Achievements lead to future hopes, now in a VIP destination where history and modernisms harmonize. Where tradition and fashion blend as highlighted glamour, this is a platform for which the new God-favored collective communicates with the world. As we enter an era of brand new concepts and people-orientedness, luxury becomes the core value of modern business concepts. A perpetual vacation of being serviced awaits you. Endure the impeccable facilities and service which is offered. At the kind invitation of the host country, Switzerland, we convened our first session in Morshak on 6th Shawwal 1424, 12th of August 2013. Members gather together to reflect on the themes and experiences of the past and to document the most important views of success, reflecting on their causes amongst other topics put forward during the meeting. During the 21st century, the establishment of the GCC within the Arabian context was a historical necessity. As most necessities develop, they should be a continuous process transcending generations. These prevailing conditions cause constant advancement of society and increases the efficient use of human, material, and technological resources. GCC, being young and active, proved to be a leader. This official high-level strategic dialogue shows the bloc's commitment to an artistic union under an auspicious occasion that marks the diplomatic protocols observed. Artistic production will elevate the mind, innovate, rejuvenate, pioneer, and will assist in spreading a culture of information so that the GCC can truly be a welcoming window to the future. This unique production is based upon a cultural vision that is open and confident of its history and heritage. GCC's mature roster of participating delegations reached out to Asia to widen their existing reach, to underscore our role as a site of discovery. Humble emergence transforms so nimbly to domineering our global culture. The fulfillment of the objectives set forth in our Charter reflects the good paces it has stepped towards. The achievements and the issues addressed by the GCC during this period reflect the comprehensiveness of its process in the various political, economic, social, cultural, and security arenas. But economic storms from elsewhere can all too easily reach our shores. As the great Arab poet Al-Mutanabi once said, "The wind goes against the wish of the ships." However, the union of GCC represents an unshakable force and an impregnable fortress that cannot be weakened by challenges. This union is the source of all our confidence and our blessed federation. Future success is new sources of productivity and prosperity under a unified protocols of achievements. With expedited blessings, 2015 will see us visible in the space. The time to plan for the 21st century future is now.
I'm so happy to be able to share that with you. So we often get this, how do you communicate? Who is in charge? Who is, pushing everybody? We are an 8-person collective, and we give ourselves the freedom to play, to improvise, to create, but we have a structure to play in, which is really hard to define. I was trying to map it out for everybody, doing diagrams and that sort of thing, but it's just messy. A narrative that I often hear in Kuwait, and that kind of, I grew up here, I was born and raised here, I graduated from ASK, is if we only had this, if we only had that. And what I really admire and love about my fellow members is that we bulldoze through those challenges and just create. We have dealt with, in the past, varying schedules. We live across 5 or 8 different time zones. And for this video in particular, Munir al-Qadiri, who's also an independent artist, is based in Beirut. And if you've ever tried to get on the internet in Beirut, you would understand how frustrating and problematic it is trying to edit and send out 4G, 4K quality video to your collaborators for feedback. So we use a lot of different online tools, some of which you may recognize here. But it's also most important for us to physically be together and physically come together in what we call summits. So actually the process of the way that we work often takes on these bureaucratic frameworks, but we have a lot of fun. So then how do you deal with creative conflicts? Even though I'm very uncomfortable with using this I-centered narrative, I want to simplify the process for the video by talking about how my role in it. So we had all been drawing on inspiration from similar PR videos, PR marketing videos. And I adapted the texts of these various ones, sent them out as a script for feedback, got it back and forth, and then finally it came time to collect the footage. In order to collect this high quality footage, I solicited and we hired a friend of mine who is based in the UAE, who works with this sort of thing. The problem is he was not involved in our conversations. He did not understand our vision, and so we were coming close to our deadline, and it was very difficult to get him to produce what it was we wanted. And as much as I was trying to force the matter, it wasn't working. So I had to step back. I had to actually physically remove myself from the conversation and say, okay, what is it that we need to do in order for this to happen in the way that we want it to? I had to take my ego and my own sense of how I felt responsible to this person for the needs of the group as a whole and the vision of the group as a whole. So where I stepped up and helped assemble the content that really encouraged other people to step in and share the content, share their own feedback. And luckily, we had our own expertise within the group. But because of the challenge of dealing with internet in Beirut and having essentially a 48-hour deadline, Nira had to fly into Abu Dhabi to work with my friend on the footage. The final result is something that we are all absolutely happy with. Again, I think it's that idea of being able to know when to step forward, when to step back in the creative process, particularly when there's friction, when things get messy. So thank you all, and I want to just open it up for questions.
Thank you for the presentation. It was fun to watch, especially the video. It like brings back memories. It feels like I was back in Dubai. But I'm sure that wasn't the intention. My question to you is more. I'm very curious if you can talk about your transformation from a curator to an artist, because you kind of like crossed the boundary to the other side. And whether being a curator gives you a better understanding of the process of being an artist, and how does it influence your work?
It's a fantastic question.
Thank you very much.
I use the term curator and artist because I think they're the most intelligible within the field that I work in. They're the most clear and understandable. There's sort of a consensus about a general consensus about what they are or what they mean. I really think about myself as a maker, as a creator. I know it sounds a little bit, it might sound a little bit cheesy, but I like to make things. So whether it is a publication like the Arte East Journal, or whether it's a script for a video, I like to work in collaboration with others. So even when I'm curating an exhibition, it's about a really deep dialogue, really deep communication with the artists or with the group of artists for me to understand their work, how they understand themselves in their work, and how to understand their broader context. Growing up here in Kuwait, I was really involved in theater. So I did a lot of productions with the Kuwait Little Theater. So it's always had that kind of creative spirit in me. When I did my undergrad and grad school, it was balancing both creating and also the more conceptual side. So for me, they come hand in hand. And people often ask me, as a member of this collective, are you curating the shows? No, we're all collaborating on it and working together to produce it. Each person has a different capacity, and I think that that's important to recognize as a curator, to, as I said in the beginning, know your own capacity, know what drives you, but also know the capacities and what drives the people that you're working with, so that you can actually empower, celebrate, and fully respect what everybody's bringing into the table.
Hi, Barrak.
Hi Lian.
It's really brave to bring your work home, so good job.
Yeah, I'm so happy.
I was wondering about a couple of things,
Yes.
kind of the politics of the work. How do you, the religious icons I hadn't realized were so present in the video when I'd seen it before. And I think it really, the combination of the gender politics and the iconography of religion come together in an interesting way. I was hoping you could talk about that. How do you censor, do you feel is there a censorship around the way you use religious icons? Do you feel like there is some kind of a barrier, a limitation?
Yeah.
And then my other question is kind of about the makeup of the group in terms of it's a majority Kuwaiti group, and then you use kind of Switzerland almost as a parallel to Kuwait, as a neutral territory. Do you feel like Kuwait has a flexibility in terms of what you can say as Kuwaitis? If you had Emiratis and Qataris in the collective, there could be some interesting politics there. The GCC right now isn't this placid place. Our relationships aren't placid right now. So how are you using your voice as Kuwaitis to kind of bypass these diplomatic tensions?
Certainly. Thank you for those
Good question.
new readings of the work. I appreciate it. It's definitely, I'm happy that it was stimulating. In terms of the, specifically the question about politics and religious iconography, the fact of the matter is all the footage is found existing footage. And so this device of marrying politics with the kind of aspirational, ecstatic quality of the future of, al-mustaqbal, this kind of hopeful sense of our world, or the development in the Khalij, is already embedded in the visual and rhetorical language of these promo videos. So by kind of appropriating, by co-opting, by recontextualizing, my hope is that we stimulate exactly those questions that you asked and force people to ask them of our real life environment, of the real life conditions in which we're sitting and watching Musalsal Ramadan, and this video comes up about the future of public transportation in Qatar or in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, and for us to think, okay, well, what's behind that? What's motivating that? And so, I mean, in the video, we're trying to create a narrative that links in a kind of abstract way to the script. Remind me, what was your second question? Oh, right. I don't think we've ever explicitly, sorry, I need to give this side of the room more attention. I don't know that we've explicitly thought about this idea of Switzerland and Kuwait being these parallel neutral territories. We met in Switzerland because it was a space that we had access to. One of the members has a chalet there, and so really kind of utilizing the resources that we already had at our disposal, doing a kind of self-induced residency. So this is where we produced a lot of the projects in the subsequent year. But the question that you're asking about the kind of nationality of the members, I personally, and I think the rest of the group would agree, that it's not, I don't want to say it's not relevant, but it's not the most important aspect of what brings us together. We don't compose ourselves as a kind of Benetton ad for the GCC. That's not our intention. We came together because of shared sensibilities, a shared passion for the Khalij, a kind of like passion / tension with a lot of the issues that we've talked about today, actually. And we had all worked with each other in various capacities. So that was really why we came together in the way that we did. And I mean, I'm half Kuwaiti, half American. Amel Khalaf is half Bahraini, half Singaporean. Abdullah al-Mtayri is half American, half Kuwaiti. Munir al-Qadiri and Fatima al-Qadiri were born in Dakar in Senegal. I think it's just who we are is reflected in the work, but that's not what the work is about. It's not what drives the work. The work is not about identity, it's about a kind of shared experience of the Khalij that we try to translate into art.
Amazing. I have room for one more question.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Khalid Al-Qarabali. I'm part of the collective.
Hi, Khalid.
I just wanted to respond about the Switzerland issue. And one of the things that Barrak mentioned is appropriation of, one of the things, I mean, he mentioned appropriation of visuals of these sort of marketing videos and sort of identity promo aesthetics. And I think one of the reasons that we chose Switzerland, other than convenience, and is that we use the language of sort of diplomacy and
leisurely labor.
Leisurely labor, right? And Switzerland is, sort of the dictionary definition of where these things happen. These sort of summits and the dubious nature of the work that goes on there. Usually, it's just grandstanding and posing and going through these rituals, and that's one of the reasons we chose to do it there.
Thank you. I think this is all the time we have. Please make some noise for Barrak, Zaid, ladies and gentlemen. Amazing.